Have you ever noticed how farmers seem to have this ancient wisdom about exactly when to plant, harvest, and process each crop? It turns out there's a fascinating ancient parable that uses this agricultural knowledge to teach us something profound about personal growth and redemption.
That's really interesting. How does this farming metaphor connect to deeper spiritual wisdom?
Well, the parable describes different methods for different crops. Caraway needs a staff, cumin requires a rod, and grain needs threshing. It's this beautiful metaphor for how we handle our mistakes and growth in life. You can't use the same approach for everything, just like you wouldn't use a sledgehammer to crack open a delicate seed.
And the text specifically mentions that grain is crushed for bread, but not forever. That seems to suggest there's a limit to how much processing is helpful.
Exactly. And you know what's fascinating? This mirrors what modern psychology tells us about personal growth and healing. Studies show that excessive self-punishment actually reduces our capacity for positive change. It's like over-crushing the grain. You end up with something unusable rather than nourishing bread.
Let me share something I've observed in counseling work. People often think more intense intervention always equals better results, but that's not necessarily true.
Right, well, let me tell you about this remarkable case I encountered while working with troubled youth. We had this teenager who'd stolen from a local store, and instead of traditional punishment, we created this program where he worked at the store after school. The transformation was incredible. Research shows that restorative justice programs like this have a 60% lower recidivism rate compared to traditional punitive measures.
That's such a perfect illustration of what this ancient wisdom is teaching us about proportional response and constructive solutions.
You know what really strikes me about the opening of this parable? It asks, is the plowman forever plowing? It's teaching us about timing and progression. Studies in behavioral change show that transformation happens in distinct stages. You can't skip steps or rush the process.
Well, that reminds me of how different cultures approach personal growth. Like how Eastern traditions often emphasize gradual transformation, while Western approaches sometimes focus on rapid change.
And what's fascinating is how the text emphasizes this delicate balance. It says, though he thresh it thoroughly and drive his cartwheel and horses over it, he does not pulverize it. Modern research in trauma-informed care shows that healing requires both persistence and gentleness. Pushing too hard can actually re-traumatize people.
So, how does this ancient wisdom apply to our modern context of personal growth and healing?
Well, the parable starts with this invitation. Give ear and hear my voice, pay attention and hear my word. It's calling for active engagement, which neuroscience now confirms is essential for learning and change. When we're actively engaged, our brains form stronger neural pathways for new behaviors and understanding.
That's making me think about how mindfulness practices have shown similar benefits in modern research.
And you know what makes this even more relevant today? In our quick fix culture, where people often seek instant solutions, this parable reminds us that true growth takes time and understanding. Recent studies show that sustainable behavior change typically requires 66 days of consistent practice, not the commonly cited 21 days.
Well, that certainly challenges our modern expectations for immediate results.
The parable concludes by saying, "This too comes from the Lord of hosts. Wonderful is his counsel and great is wisdom." Whether you're looking at it through a spiritual or secular lens, it's teaching us about the importance of discernment in growth and healing. Modern psychology confirms this one-size-doesn't-fit-all when it comes to personal development.
Let me point out how remarkable it is that this ancient wisdom aligns so well with contemporary research on human development and change.
You know what's really powerful about this message? It's ultimately about hope and transformation. Whether we're talking about ancient farming practices or modern personal growth, the principle remains the same with the right approach and proper understanding. Even our struggles can become stepping stones to something valuable. Research shows that people who view challenges as opportunities for growth are 23% more likely to achieve their goals.